on the home page of the FabuLingua teacher portal. You can see that on the left there is a menu of classes. Archived classes is actually going to be moved into classes, and this is the classes page that you see here. It's kind of like the home page. There is also a students, so all that teacher students are listed here, and supplemental resources. Let's have a quick look at students. You can see all of her students, parents' email address, what class they're in, engagement time, what level they're at, and specific actions that she may want to take for that student. Have a quick look at supplemental resources. These are, sorry, here they are. These are paper resources, PDFs that can be printed out or shared electronically with a student that take the learning that's happened in the app and they extend it and reinforce it. So there are worksheets, there are games such as puzzles, bingo, there's teacher guides as to that particular story and how to extend learning from it. There's story printouts and of course vocabulary. Let's have a look here. The teacher would decide whether she's sharing, printing, or downloading it. So that is, and this can of course be sorted and filtered by story, by level, etc. and the kind of exercise that this is. Let's go back to classes here. This teacher has two classes. She can see very quickly the code, how many students have signed in, and what current readings that class is on. She can see which students are in that class and which supplemental resources pertain to the current readings that the class is on. So let's click on Class A, and here we can see the code, the number of students. We can sort and filter by this a variety of dates or stories, and you can see here that the teacher can either look at the students in Class A or she can look at what the stories that the whole class has been working on. And here you can see they've been working on 2 stories. You can see here she can read a little bit more, a reminder of what that story is about. Click on supplemental resources for that story, or see which students have been working on that story, or hear the recordings that the students have made on that story. Here's the progress summary. 14 out of 15 of the students in Class A have done magical translations for this story, but only 2 out of 15 have made it all the way to the final mode, which is read by myself for that story. Let's click a little bit more to get some more color on this. All these numbers are random, so they're different from the previous page. But this gives you an idea that here, for example, there's a trailer, so she can have a visual reminder of what that story looks and feels like. A little bit more here on the story, the stats for that story for the class from the previous page, the location of that story within the FabuLingua overworld, the vocabulary for that story, and again, supplemental resources for that specific story. Here we can see the engagement for the whole class on that story. Here are the students in green that are more engaged. They have earned more keys. And the students that are less engaged in red, and also against the amount of total time. So the conversation the teacher might have, for example, with this student down here is all about the fact that that student has not spent a lot of time in app on that story, which might be why he's not been earning as many keys. This student has spent a lot of time in that story, but has not earned keys. So that's a different conversation the teacher would have with that student. Here are stats on the averages of how the class is doing with that story. And here are the particular words that they have learned from interactions in that story. The teacher can also click here and see what words have been missed in the games on that story. So she can take the words that have been missed the most by the class and trying to do extra work on them in class with the students. Let's have a look at the students here. She can see which students have got all the way to the final mode. These are all the modes. She can see that Bob, for example, has completed all the modes. He's done magical translations once, copycat in Spanish once, and he's submitted 2 recordings for Read by Myself. He's earned 27 keys and he's spent a total of 45 minutes on that. Tim, however, has done 1 magical translation, and these 2 modes are still in progress. This one he hasn't even opened, so it's a different conversation. She can see the progress for each one of these students. Let's drill down into Bob a little bit more. We can filter the time period for which we want to look at Bob's work. We can see this is Bob in the whole class. We can see his particular stats, how many games he's won, and recordings he's submitted. Same thing, we can see which words he's been learning through the interactions, and we can see which words are still a challenge for him in the games. Here we can see what Bob has been doing in terms of stories, games, and his activity log. And so here we can see that he has completed Rani and Sapi 1 and 2. He's still very much in progress for Rani and Sapi 3. You can see the amount of time he's spent. And here you can go and listen to the recordings that he has submitted for Rani and Sapi 1. You can give them grades in the form of stars if you are a school that grades things. And you can write notes to yourself here about, must get him to slow down, to listen a little bit more attentively, or whatever it is. And here you would go on to the next story if you wanted to hear other recordings. Let's have a look at what Bob is doing in terms of games. Here we can see the 4 games that FabuLingua has right now. You can see that he's had 7 wins in the matching game and he's played 12 times. A win is when you get 100% right in a game. So when you have not yet got 100% right in a win, we will give you the best score of Bob's efforts for that game. Here he's got 85%, he's on his way, but this one it's only 15%, which means basically he's not mastered or come close. He's struggling more with the letter scramble on that story. Let's have a look at Bob's activity log for August 4th. Maybe you didn't really set eyes on him in class. You have no idea what was he really up to? Was he engaged? Was he not? And here you can see that on August 4th he spent 15 minutes reading 8 pages in Rani and Sapi 2 and 1 in magical translations, and then he went on to play the letter scramble game for 4 minutes and played 3 games. And then he was pretty into that, so he went and did the letter scramble for Rani and Sapi 3. And he played that for 5 minutes. So you can have an idea of their journey on a given day. And of course, you can see when he was last active. That's always very useful. So that's pretty much it for the teacher dashboard as we've got it laid out right now. Thank you.